Okay, let's get started. Hello, everyone. I am Melissa Andrade, the Marketing Director here at DataMyte, and I'm very excited to have you all on the line, taking time out of your busy day to learn about opportunities to improve productivity and traceability with DataMyte. And looking at our attendees today, the majority are customers using our quality planning or data metrics SBC data collection programs. I hope you will find this information insightful while we all adjust our operations to the evolving new normal. And why not look at your current DataMyte solutions and find ways to make them work harder for you to bring efficiency and productivity benefits. Today we'll have a 45-minute presentation followed by time for questions. Darren Madsen and Jerry Zeglin are my co-presenters today. Darren and Jerry are just a couple of our very knowledgeable solution experts here at DataMyte. And we also have Chris Ackerman, one of our solution engineers, on the line for questions when we get to the end of the presentation. Just a few housekeeping items. You are on mute during the presentation. You can submit your questions anytime through the GoToWebinar portal. We will try to get to all your questions. However, if we're not able to cover your question online, we will reach out to you afterwards. We will also send you the replay of the recorded webinar later this afternoon. And you'll also see a few polling questions along the way, so stay tuned for those. Today, what we will cover. Today, we're going to look at some of the challenges many manufacturers are facing while getting back to work. We'll also look at DataMyte's holistic approach to plant floor data collection and quality management. While we do this, we'll highlight some existing and some new products. We'll also cover how these solutions can increase efficiency for your organization. In a recent study in May of 604 manufacturers, we find that there's a lot of disruptions happening right now with production. Production is expected to fall 3.8% over the next 12 months. And the association recognizes this is the lowest reading they've had over the last 5 years. 64% of manufacturers forecast output declines over the coming months, and 33.8% see declines of more than 10%. Large firms were the most pessimistic with a 4.5% decrease, and small and medium-sized manufacturers expect production to decline 3.4%. All in all, we see 55% are experiencing changes in their operations. So whether or not you're dealing with new challenges or having to ramp up production, if you're in food and beverage, there's a lot of change going on out there. So let's take a deeper dive and look at what are some of those current challenges in getting back to work. Right now, since a lot of companies were closed down for a while, there's a big pressure right now to improve efficiency, get production back up, and innovate during this time. We're also concerned about safety, and social distancing on the production floor is really important, and the challenges that come with that of wearing PPE and spacing people out and keeping the production lines going. There's also less travel happening between plants. So if you have a manager who usually travels from plant to plant, there's less visibility happening right now with current projects. There's also more remote access happening with people working from home into current solutions and systems, putting pressure on IT. Then we have the workforce churn happening, and a lot of companies are doing furloughs. So you have workforce that's coming in and out with constantly changing processes, and so many of you are facing challenges with their supply chain, which is really making a big impact on what's happening in the manufacturing. And this is really putting constraints on corrective action processes. And all in all, what happens is during this time, there's more mistakes that are likely to be made with all of this happening at once. You can kind of see my picture here of the upside down swoosh of the Nike shoe. Additional challenges, with all this change happening and your workforce is going in and out, we really, see kind of a more inexperienced workforce at times covering certain processes. Your pace of change is outpacing existing controls, and that's, really putting a constraint on things. And during this time, your mistakes are less likely to be caught, and we might have more defects happening. Let's review a little bit like what the costs of poor quality are. Internally, you might see rework costs, delays, additional redesign costs, shortages, costs around failure analysis, retesting, downgrading, down to the cost of downtime, and just an overall lack of flexibility. Externally, you might see complaints, repairing goods and services, and redoing services, warranty claims, brand defamation, and losses due to decline in sales, and also environmental costs. If we look at 1 year per failure costs from production through distribution, we see exponential cost at each stage from quality failures. Thus, it's important to have process controls and solutions in place to identify nonconformities or defects early and provide traceability throughout. At this time, we'll have our first polling question. Has your company had challenges with process control or increased quality issues upon recently starting operations? I'll give you a second to vote. 5 more seconds. And I will close the poll and share the results. And we see that 55% of you have had challenges in process control or increased quality issues, and 45% have not. Thank you very much for voting and participating in the poll. And at this time, I'm going to turn things over to Darren Madsen.
All right, thanks, Melissa, and thank you everyone for attending today. In today's business climate, having the ability to track and trace quality processes is more important than ever. In many cases, traceability is interpreted as the ability to verify the history, location, associated people, or application of an item by means of documented and recorded identification. Having data that can be trusted by verifiable audits is crucial to quality control. By integrating with various measuring devices, as well as machine and process data, a complete picture is then provided, which can be audited at any given time. Traceability plays a factor in how quickly you are able to recover from an adverse event, and ultimately helps resolve and prevent further issues moving forward. Next slide, please. As you know, data access drives the modern production environment. Manufacturing and the supply chain are full of interwoven complexities that require an automated system to keep up with everything. Many DataMyte customers are finding that the breadth and depth of our solutions are extremely beneficial for driving increased traceability and productivity through planning, collecting, analyzing, and ultimately improving their processes. Our full lineup of hardware and software applications promote a closed-loop management process. These comprehensive solutions cover all the quality steps from the planning process to management of tool and gauges, data collection and SPC with data metrics, which also includes many additional modules to support increased traceability that Jerry's going to cover with us here shortly. Robust analytics and reporting make decisions quickly before issues become major, and our ability to integrate with MES and ERP systems make complete information available at the enterprise level. Our solutions also promote a more efficient workflow throughout the quality process, including support to enable corrective action processes. This is where quality planning, SPC, and several other new DataMyte solutions that I'll talk about later really come into play. Next slide. So starting at the beginning, let's take a look at the importance of planning. When we compare these two graphics, it's pretty easy to identify the vast difference in implications. As you can see to the left, not recognizing the failure early leads to a much greater impact versus the graph on the right, where planning can have a significant effect on both production operations and from a financial perspective. The difference between catching defects early is crucial to a company's efficiency preventing costly recalls and even reputational damage. Next slide. At the beginning of the quality process, planning is crucial to success. Our quality planning studio, formerly known as PACT, is used by some of the world's most recognizable companies. And I know that we have several of you current users on the line today, so thanks for attending. Organizations, both small and large, use the application to easily manage their APQP processes, easing the burden of what is normally a very cumbersome project when completed manually. This solution also increases planning efficiency and provides an easily accessible APQP documentation repository. Next slide. In today's business climate, many of us are being forced to leverage electronic remote solutions options. Oh, Melissa, next slide. Oh, I'm sorry, you're there. I'm sorry. Remote solution options. Many are predicting that restricted movement of people around the globe is expected to last for the next 18 to 24 months, thus necessitating a new way to manage data products remotely. As a cloud-based solution, Quality Planning Studio can be accessed from anywhere remotely and provides a complete documentation management database that promotes increased traceability. In addition, the latest integration into our DataMetrics SPC application eases the burden by eliminating redundant setup steps and provides additional insight and comparison capability once you're in production. Next slide. All right, so in looking at that integration further, there's actually now two-way communication between the two applications. First, once the parts and characteristics are created in Quality Planning Studio, you now have the ability to publish those items into DataMetrics with just a click of a button, thus eliminating the need to recreate them in that application. Then as adjustments are made to the plan, those changes then synchronize along the way as well. The same applies with spec limits, resolution, and subgroup size. Next, once in production, DataMetrics then communicates your capability stats back to Quality Planning Studio, allowing you the ability to compare the actual results to what was originally planned. Okay, so that covers the Quality Planning Studio application. I believe Melissa has another polling question for us.
Thanks, Darren. Yes, I have our second polling question, and that is, what do you use for quality planning in your organization? Give you a few seconds to vote. About 5 more seconds. And I will close the poll and share the results. So we see 12% of you on the line use QPS or our previous version, which was called PACT. 35% use spreadsheets. 22% are using your ERP software. 20% another software program, or 11% no formal program. Very interesting. Thank you very much for voting. And I will turn the presentation over to Jerry Zeitlin at this time.
Thank you, Melissa. Appreciate it. Thanks everybody for being on today. We appreciate your time. I know everybody's busy. I'm kind of going to start with some of the basics and some of the basic challenges. There's been some significant changes in the manufacturing floor over the last 20 to 30 years, but some of the things that are on this slide have really not changed all that much. And from a data collection standpoint, there's different ways of collecting data, whether it's fixed station or mobile. There's some fixtures, but and so you have a lot of different ways of collecting information, but the key is a lot of the interfaces that are out there. Some of these are very new, like the OPC UA that's in the middle of the graph. That's a new standard that comes out with Industry 4.0. So it helps you pull data from processes instead of discrete data collection. And the wireless gauging is continuing to evolve, and manufacturers are continuing to add wireless capabilities into their devices, and we as an organization, our challenge always is to keep up on the interfaces, and we're actually going through a big growth period right now on interfacing different devices. So if you've got some stuff out there you want to interface that isn't today, we should really be talking. So next slide. This slide, there's a lot of information on it. It really has kind of, if you look at the core of a data collection and quality systems, you have the circle in the middle that talks about planning, collecting information, analyzing, and improving. You know, DataMyte started out as purely a data collection company, and that's still the heart of our system. But on the right-hand side, and one of my firm beliefs is obviously if you don't have a quality and a strict planning part of your process, it's much harder to control the output of that process. We've got several new products that we're going to be talking about. Darren touched a little on the quality planning. That's a whole subject in itself, but we've got several new tools, and what I'm going to be focusing on really is kind of the core tools and some of the tools that get added onto the DataMetrics product. Again, at the bottom of this is a database, and the more information you can access through our database, the more information you can get into the database, the better you are at analyzing that data. So the collecting and analyzing, that moves into the improvement process, which also is again, it's that continuous loop. Before I kind of talk a little bit about the integration, if you look at the third-party silos, we all have got data in Excel, data in different systems. The more data you could pull into the database so that you can analyze your data more efficiently and make improvements is really the key to that continuous loop. As far as integration goes, we're seeing a big change in the marketplace where folks want to have feedback to higher level systems, whether it's an ERP, MES, or a reporting tool. Some of the things we're doing in the integration piece is we can do something as simple as based on an order and the data that's collected for a given order, we can give a pass or fail command up to the ERP solution to release that order for shipment. And as people get more sophisticated, we also can use statistical indices on key characteristics. So if all the key characteristics meet a certain criteria, we can release that information up to the ERP system. The ERP system can make a decision. The reason MES and ERP are up there kind of at the same level is some manufacturing is more in the food, and some of the others actually send a lot of that information instead of going to ERP systems, they're sending it up to MES. The last point on this slide is the BI reporting tool. Everyone's heard of big data, data lakes, data garages, data sheds. I don't know, I've heard all sorts of names for different ways of putting data into one large historical database to do some data mining in that. And that's one of the pieces that we're very spending a lot of time on, is the integration piece to send it up to third-party systems. Next slide. There's a lot of folks on today that are part of have been using DataMetrics, some for many years. I'm going to focus primarily on the analysis and reporting tools, and then also the actual tools themselves. One thing I wanted to point out is we are coming out with a name change for what's been affectionately known as DAR, which stood for Data Analysis and Reporting. We're going to change that name to Insight because we think it gives a little bit better picture of what the tool actually does, because it's designed to give insight into your data. Next slide. This is kind of the core of being able to analyze data. It's kind of a simplistic overview of what the steps are that you go through. If you look at what a data filter is, so you've got a database that's got hundreds of part numbers, thousands of part numbers, years worth of data. How do you want to look at that? So the first step is really a data filter. So you based on a time span, you pick a time span, you pick the characteristics, and you pick the labels. And the labels are Darren spent a lot of time talking about traceability. Traceability is a key component, whether it's a lot number, order number, the shift it was run on, the operators, all those kind of labels that are collected along with the data. They create a data filter that you run across. So if you add that to report templates, you can have some standard statistical reports, but you also get user-defined reports, which allow you to create some custom reports based on statistic sets and different information, and create reports by week, by month, by quarter, by year, kind of some indices based on, so you can look at improvements over time. Once you've created the filter and the templates, then you can either look at those on screen, or you can put them into a reusable report binder, and it's just like any binder. You know, you can publish that binder out over time and keep reusing it. And even, you know, I've got a lot of customers that, you know, they want to be able to automate some of these processes. As we go forward here in this next couple slides, I'll explain a little bit about that. Next slide. So the tools we're going to talk about, there's a product called Production Monitor, Active Directory, Audit Log, Report Scheduler, and a lot of the things that we as an organization are heavily focused on is helping you report data out in different ways. So I'll kind of touch on some of those points as well. Next slide. The first tool is what we call the Audit Log. It's heavily used in regulated industries where you want to make sure you keep track of things like spec limit changes, different aspects of the data that you've collected, whether you've omitted the data. There's other things that we do within our software and who did those tasks. So the Audit Log basically tracks any changes that happen in the database and who made them, when they made them, and what the original value was and what the value was after the value it was changed. So if you've got more people in your system today making changes, updating spec limits, adding characteristics, removing characteristics, and things like that, this tool is it's a huge time saver, especially even if you have an audit and there's some questions, you can always go back and see who did it and when they did it. Next slide, please. This tool is probably most, you know, the biggest proponent of it is the IT staff. Pretty much most organizations today are run on Microsoft's Active Directory. And the data metrics product itself has very strong security, but people that want to connect our security to the Active Directory have the option of using this Active Directory tool. So really from an IT standpoint, what happens is you have to create some roles that are within our software, and there's some things like you want to set up one time and create some user roles within our software, and then when you go into Active Directory, you actually just combine the roles with existing roles in Active Directory. So what it allows you to have is a single sign-on. So whenever someone signs onto that PC to go collect data, they're captured automatically. They don't have to put their name in or anything. That's captured, and that's important. But what's more important is some of the stuff that IT does by adding people in, removing people, changing roles. Some of that stuff that they do, it basically, once our system is connected to Active Directory, the IT staff never has to go in and change anything in our system. They just do their normal activities within Active Directory, and we just kind of commingle with the two. So it's a very effective tool. Next slide, please. If you look at tasks that you do every day and reports that you generate every day and customer reports, and you can go into the Insight application and pull that data out. You can use those save data filters to pull that data out. But the key is also we've got the ability to create a report scheduler for you. So if there's a daily report or a weekly report, a monthly report, a quarter report, you have that information. You can schedule that information. So if you're not in the plant and you have a certain report you need to get out on Monday, you can push that date out every Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning or at midnight when the system's slowed down and there's not much activity. So you have a lot of different things that you can do to help save time and errors. The outputs can be just text file outputs, PDF, and you can also print out reports directly to a printer or an FTP site. So next report, or next slide, please. Production monitor. I have two slides on this. the key is really thinking about a dashboard overview of your plant floor. And I've talked to some folks about this activity or this capability recently. This tool and the next tool are both web-based tool, and they're built off the Microsoft SQL Server Reporting Studio. So a lot of times they're very easy to deploy because internal IT staff have quite a bit of knowledge about that tool from Microsoft. If you look, basically, you've got the ability to have multiple layers, and then once you get down to a certain layer, you can actually jump out into a control chart. So you can, within 1, 2, 3, 4 clicks, you can be at a control chart showing a distribution chart of your data over a long period of time. Whether that's, and all this stuff it's a highly configurable tool. So can you jump down to the next slide, Melissa, please? So if you start down in the lower right-hand corner, the production monitor comes up with multiple lines, and if you can see this, there's one DCA 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those could be data collection PCs out on the floor. They could be data collection lines out on the floor. And then the right-hand side of that chart, you see this isn't CP and CPK estimate, but that can be MAV, lot averages, and those kind of things. They're the indices that you might want to track in your industry. So this tool is very flexible. So once you see at the high level that something's red and you violated a condition that you have set up in the system, then you drop into the next line of data, which goes from the overall part or station data down to the setup level, which would be the whole inspection plan in this particular area, and then you drop down to the actual characteristics. So you're looking at net weight that was collected, and you've got look at the descriptions, and you can read through those if you want. You have a percent above label, you got a percent label for net weight below minimum, and so you've got all sorts of alarms, and this would be an example of a net weight applications. But if you were in an automotive facility or aerospace or something, you might be looking and triggering off CP, CPK. Events typically are statistical in nature, but there are other events that we also track within the solution. Once you get to this level and you're looking at the different events that have happened, if you look up on the one in the middle of the screen, there's the graph chart. Once you click on that, then you go into the chart, the X bar and R chart that I showed you in the previous screen. So it really, within 4 clicks, you can go from looking at a station to looking at an inspection plan to looking at a characteristic and then looking at a control chart. So it allows you to move through the data rapidly and have instant access to that data. Next slide. Once we get into the web reporting, again, this is also based on Microsoft SQL Server reporting services, and we've always, Melissa was nice enough to put how many years I've been around, and one of the things that's always been a challenge is producing, I'll call them custom reports or one-off reports, and within this tool, it helps us develop reports in a much faster way, and we can, based on what customers are looking for. So if there is some sort of reports that you're not seeing in the Insight program today, and maybe they're different style reports, and these are what I'm showing you today is just some exception reports, a data report, and then a pie chart, which is like a pie chart of statistical indices, and seeing where everything, all the quality indices fall within a certain product line or within a product family. So anyway, within these reports, it just allows us to have a flexibility to provide you with some tools that you may not have today. And it does have a standard set of reports that comes with it, but also, again, what's key is being able to produce reports on the fly for you. Next slide. This is just, again, it's kind of a weekly completion summary, collection sequence summary, collection sequence detail. So you're looking at a summary of some characteristics over time, when they were collected, what time they were collected. Those kind of reports are really are already kind of in the system. Next slide, please. So as we move into and doing more, and I said earlier on that our key focus is really on reporting these days. I mean, people want to see data in different forms. So now you're starting to see on this page where we've got graphics tied with data from the database and statistical information and corrective action information. You can tie a picture. People can take depending on how you're collecting your data, our roving data collector called the Revolution. You can actually snap a picture and collect some data and on that defect and then put that into a report. So Darren's going to talk a little bit about that. The middle report is really a visual defect report. The blue dots on the vehicle are where that defect occurred. So if you got a package of any kind and you want to make sure the label's square and you can read the UPC code and that kind of stuff, we can collect that information for you. And then as we move down through this slide, you'll just see some different kind of graphics to look at the data in a little different way. Next slide. We get into the business intelligence. We're doing some activity in here, but what's probably more important, if you've got folks, you've got multiple plants, and they're starting to pull that data off and up into a data intelligence reporting tool, we can help to bring that data up. And the kind of key there is, again, it's visualization of the data. How can we present data in a way that more people understand without having to go down to the actual statistical level? You know, it can be something as simple as a gas gauge. If it's, you know, everything's going good, it's in the green. If everything's going bad, it's in the red. And we'll show you some more information that kind of relate to what we're trying to talk about there. So next slide. The last one I have is the archiver. All manufacturing plants have some sort of retention policy on data. Some actually have to save it for life of product. Some people, it's a year, a month, a quarter, whatever it is. So with this archiver tool, it's different than a backup of your database because it actually archives the data into an active database. So you choose the setups and the information you want to archive, you set an archiving schedule, and then if it's a quarterly schedule, you just take that every quarter, it wakes up, sends the data to an archive database, and you keep your original data in the production database, and then you've got an archive database that you can let grow very large, because if you got to go back 5 years in time and look at data, and you can just log in using Insight instead of going into the production. You log into archive, boom, you go back 5 years, you look up a serial number for that time and date, and you pull that information up. So it's really just a tool to automate that task of archiving off data. Next slide. Guess now we're gonna have another.
Yeah, we're gonna have our final poll question at this time. And our question is, do you use clipboard or paper data collection processes in your plants? And I'm going to launch the poll. Give you about 5 more seconds to answer. And I'm going to close the poll and share the results. So we have 51% of you saying that you use clipboard or paper data collection processes every day, 21% occasionally, 17% rarely, and 12% never. Very interesting. Thanks so much for that insight. And I think Darren will, as I pass things back to Darren, he'll have some great tools to maybe help in this area.
That's right. Thanks, Melissa. All right, so now that we've reviewed our existing offerings that can help transform your operations during this quote-unquote new normal, we're going to now take a look at our newly released hardware and software solutions that can take quality operations even a step further. Now, while many companies have scaled back on product development over the past several months, given the situation we're in, DataMyte has actually doubled down, and we've made significant investments into our product line, bringing solutions to the market that will take digital transformation in manufacturing to a whole new level. Integrating these new products with our powerful and stable line of existing apps will not only help you provide additional insight, traceability, and the ability to act quickly, but also enhance workflow capabilities to increase operational efficiency. So let's go to the next slide and start taking a look. All right, so the first new product is our Revolution Data Collector. Now, as many of you know, DataMyte has been providing data collectors to quality professionals for nearly 50 years. Now, while it is considered the next generation of this line, the Revolution is not just another data collector. It's actually a true data intelligence device that allows you to collect, analyze, communicate, and most importantly, act on your data. By leveraging new software technologies that I'll be introducing here shortly, it has now become a workflow management device. In addition, it eliminates manual data collection, thus reducing the risk for error and improved traceability. Revolution can connect wirelessly to literally hundreds of gauges and integrates the data collected into your data metrics database. So one thing I do want to add here is that for those of you that currently have an older DataMyte data collector, we're actually offering special limited time incentives for trading in your old devices for the new Revolution. If you'd like to learn more, just simply ask your sales rep for more details. Okay. All right, now let's take a look at the new software applications. All right, so we're very excited to introduce 3 new software applications that integrate with our hardware and existing software solutions. They are the Digital Clipboard, VSpec, and Escalate. All 3 of these products are currently being beta tested and can run on multiple different platforms. These applications are highly configurable to meet your requirements and take data collection to a much higher level. Now let's take a look at more in a little more detail. Okay, the first new application, like I said, is called the Digital Clipboard. In simple terms, this solution is what its name implies, an electronic version of wooden clipboards with paper checklists now transformed electronically onto the Revolution data collector or other devices, which include tablets and phones. Now, while not every industry is the same, we've learned from our customers that traditional manual checklists are widely used throughout facilities, and as our poll indicated as well. And this data being captured is not in a format where it can be mined or reported on given that manual process. And if the data is being collected on paper and then manually put into a digital format, that process, as you know, is very repetitive, making it extremely inefficient and creates a greater risk of mistakes and errors to be made. This discredits traceability and validity of your data, which auditors in highly regulated industries may immediately call out as a finding. Digital Clipboard provides a reduced risk of error and improves the level of traceability that is not only beneficial for you, but looked at positively by auditors or other regulatory authorities. Next slide. All right, so looking at the Digital Clipboard a little further, on the right you can see some sample data shots of examples for what a digital checklist might look like. Note that these checklists are highly configurable and that you can create routes or campaigns with specific data you want to collect for your department, company, or industry. Digital Clipboard also gives your operators immediate feedback on the data collected by indicating if it was in or out of spec after they actually enter it. Okay, next slide. All right, and one last note, unlike wooden clipboards with paper and pens attached, the Revolution tablets or phones can be properly sanitized prior to being passed on to the next person to use, thus reducing the threat of spreading germs within your facility, which we all know is an extremely important safety concern for a lot of folks today. Okay, next slide. All right, so the next new application is called VSpec, and this is actually a product that I am personally very excited to talk about. VSpec is a powerful visual attribute data collection tool that can utilize preloaded product images as well as the ability to take real-time photographs to identify locations of defects. VSpec improves traceability and data integrity by reducing human influence over the collected data. In addition, you can now store, audit, and report on visual findings in the same database as you collect your variable data. Next slide. So as an example, when an operator is conducting a visual inspection, the product or part image is marked up by using touchscreen capabilities. And again, this can be either a preloaded part image, a real-time photograph, or even both. VSpec then allows the operator to pull up an inspection checklist to answer even more detailed questions about the finding. Then by using proprietary technology and analytical capabilities, this visual data can then be quantified and reported on. And finally, after these steps are complete, the data is then sent to your centralized database to be stored with your variable data as previously mentioned, and allowing additional reporting capabilities by leveraging the Insight product that Jerry discussed with us earlier. So a very powerful new solution that is getting a lot of excitement and interest in the quality marketplace. Next slide. All right, the third and final new software application is called Escalate. The Escalate solution provides a couple of different benefits. First, it provides the capability to escalate new alarms and notifications from either the Revolution data collector or DataMyte software that is installed on fixed stations, like some of you may have. This takes alarms and notifications to the next level, ensuring that operators are responding to them in a timely manner. As you can see in the chart, Escalate allows you to select predetermined recipients from predetermined levels of responsibility at predetermined time intervals and build an alarm and escalation distribution list. If the operator does not respond to an alarm in a timely manner, Escalate will notify the next level of command and will continue to do so until it is responded to or it reaches the top of the chain. These alarms can be provided via text, email, or both. This provides an extra level of control, ensuring that critical alarms are being responded to in a timely manner. And again, the Escalate application can be run on multiple devices, including the Revolution data collector, tablets, phones, and fixed station PCs. Next slide. All right, the second key feature of Escalate is a new audit report. This report is a significant benefit to customers who need to provide reports regarding when measurements were actually taken. Once again, traceability detailing when measurements were taken and whether they were in or out of specification. The audit report allows customers to improve reaction time, build team collaboration, and notify management of missed inspections or audits. We affectionately call this our morning coffee report because it allows managers or supervisors to come in the morning and quickly review the previous day's measurements while having their coffee. Managers can quickly see if the measurements were taken by simply looking at the different colors on the report. Gray indicates that no measurements were taken during that period of time. Green indicates that they were in spec and in control. And finally, red indicates they were out of spec or outside of the control limits. Next slide. All right, in addition to the high-level information, further drill-down capability is available so a deeper dive can be taken. This information can be viewed at either the group or at the individual level. The red star marker indicates that an alarm and escalation took place, and once you click on it, additional details such as measurement readings and the time they were taken are displayed. Once again, this adds a significant level of traceability to your quality operations. Okay. Well, that concludes our look at the new products. If you'd like to learn more or to set up a demonstration of any of them, please let your salesperson know, and we'd be happy to do so. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Melissa for our final review.
Thanks, Darren, and thanks, Jerry, for the great overview on our solutions and opportunities for increasing efficiencies and productivity. I'm going to just do a quick review for each our quality planning clients and our DataMyte clients on the line, just what we talked about and opportunities. For quality planning, we talked about upgrading to the cloud for the added benefits of remote access, security, and making IT administration easier. We also talked about the ability to integrate your quality planning with DataMyte SBC data collection for that increased traceability, reduce redundancy, and saving time overall. And also moving to the latest version of QPS is also advantageous because we have built-in updated compliance if you need to comply with AIG VDA. In the automotive industry, we have that built into the latest version. So great opportunities there for enhancing your solution. For the DataMyte clients, we talked a lot about reporting modules. So considering incorporating some of these enhanced reporting modules or tools where you can identify the non-conforming events, you can alarm and escalate on them to drive swift corrective action, automating the scheduling of the reports, improving remote access with web reports, and monitoring your production with dashboards and drill down capability. And then adding a solution like Escalate to analyze and improve with reporting capabilities with an audit report. We also looked at integrating quality data with Microsoft Active Directory, MES, ERP, and systems such as your SAP. Improve your change process control and quickly track all changes in one database with DataMyte Audit Log. And finally, Archiver can optimize system performance by providing that accessible secondary database, which can save time and facilitate things for your IT folks. And lastly, Darren looked at new portable data collection options, which enable workflow management, your capability to do layered process audits, visual attribute data collection, and moving your paper checklist processes to a digital format where you can have better traceability and better manage and prevent certain events. And really, the DataMyte database is the key to pulling together data from all of your data silos into one centralized repository from which you can report, analyze, and act on all of your data. And with that, we are moving on to any questions you might have. I know we've had a few come in, so if you have additional questions at this time, please send in your questions through the platform. And I think we have someone would like a copy of the presentation. That's definitely something we can provide especially if you, I'll make note of Mark that you requested that, but we will provide that upon request. The recorded video of the webinar will be sent out to you this afternoon, so you will have that as well. So we have more questions coming in. I'm going to read the first question. Is it possible to change my license and move my existing projects to the QPS cloud version for quality planning?
Take that one. Hi, everybody. This is Chris Ackerman, and I'm one of the solutions engineers at DataMyte. That's a great question because in the past few months, we've had a lot of questions about this. What we have to do, though, is take a look at your current licensing, and then we'll do what we call kind of mapping out a plan for data migration. So your data will go from a database on site to a database in the cloud, and we want to take a look at that and make sure we've got the right solution for that process. But with a lot of people working from home remotely, or alternating back and forth between their office and their home, we are seeing we're getting more requests for this cloud version because of the ease of the remote access to the same data.
Great, thank you, Chris. Looks like we have another question as well related to QPS. We'll stay on that until we move on. Can QPS generate inspection plans for your SPC data?
Yes, we have the ability within our operator instructions within Quality Planning Studio to generate what would be essentially a standalone inspection sheet. But what we're seeing is as more and more people are getting away from the paper pencil clipboard, we have now integrated our QPS characteristics right with our DataMyte solution. So that would be an option for someone to want to take a look at further, where we can have that information improve their traceability and reduce the the mistakes of entering it twice. We'll enter it once in the QPS, and then that information will be published pretty much as Darren mentioned earlier into the DataMyte solution. So that's a great question.
Great, thanks, Chris. I have a question related to the level of software that I assume the DataMyte tools tie into. DC Advanced, DC Pro, Report Scheduler, Production Monitor. What level of software do these tools tie into? Jerry, do you want to take
Sure.
that one?
And I think I understand. I mean, you're basically asking what version of the software. The current version that is shipping is a 2019 R2 version. There is a 2020 version that's soon to be released. But the reporting tools go back probably to the 2018 version. I would need to check on that, and I will get back with you with more detail. But the web reports have been around for at least 5 to 7 years, so they go back pretty far with the schema version that you might have.
Okay, great. Another related question, Jerry, maybe you could take this one. Does the importer tool work with these new solutions? We're looking to use importer to help us import setups, characteristics, etc.
Yes, I definitely answer that. Importer definitely has the ability to pull data in from, mostly it's designed to work with CMM files. What we would need to do, again, it's one of those that we need to take a look at. There's still, it's kind of like any gauging with the CMM data files. There's a lot of different formats and standards out there. Importer's been used with several of the popular ones. So we also have a product called, we have a driver, a file parser driver that allows you to basically read any data from any file and create the ability to, and create a basic and automatic file parsing application. And it can be, you can have one for, you can have one or hundreds of them for pulling data into the system from any file-based solution. So hopefully I answered that, but I'll look for this question more and I can give you a call and address it in further detail.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jerry. I have another question relating to the new Revolution device. Do I need to create new inspection plans to work with the Revolution? Maybe Darren?
I'll take that one, Melissa. So no, the short answer is no. The Revolution is actually developed to be backwards compatible and also forward looking. So we're not going to make you have to buy new equipment, start over. In fact, both of the collectors, the 600 data collector as well as the Revolution, use inspections that are created within the Transcend 2 software. So you can actually potentially run, both in your environment, but no, you don't have to create new inspection plans because they reside within the Transcend 2 software.
Okay, great. Another question. This one as well, I'll keep on the Revolution theme. Will I need to buy new gauges to use with the Revolution?
I can take that, Melissa. This is Jerry. The only gauges we don't support is our older analog torque wrenches. Everything going back to like an old Federal Maxim and stuff is still still supported in the Revolution. We support all the same gauges we have basically for the last 20 plus years. Where we're spending most of our time is on the wireless side. And some of you might be familiar with MicroRidge. And we have a MicroRidge receiver built into the Revolution, and we also have a low energy Bluetooth receiver built into the Revolution. So we can also, the one thing that's going on is there's no standard between Mitutoyo and Fowler and Mar and all the gauging companies out there. So we're continuing to always work with those companies to develop interfaces, and more devices are coming out with this low energy Bluetooth, which is very common. So we're working through each one of those, but the only one I would tell you to let's just talk about it would be some of the newer gauges that are on the market, because if we've never seen it, we can't tell you if it works. But we are always out there to continue supporting anything that's new in the market.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jerry. Another question. Escalate looks like a great solution. Where can I run that?
I'll take that one, Melissa. It's actually it resides on top of the data metrics services. So because of that, it can be run pretty much anywhere, as far as, from a fixed station PC to the Revolution data collector, or on a tablet or a phone. So it's pretty versatile in that regard.
How quickly can I get up and running on web reporting?
I can handle that. So web reporting, again, works off the Microsoft SQL Server Reporting Studio. So a lot of your IT folks are familiar with that. They're using it for different applications. We do assist in the installation and to get it up and running. But once it's installed and there's some report templates that are added into the system, you basically create a website that, just a URL that directs you to that service, and you can see the report. So I can't give you whether it's an hour or 5 hours or 2 hours. It just depends on your environment and different conditions, but it's really not a big deal to get it installed.
Great, thanks, Jerry. Well, at this time, I'd like to conclude our question and answer session. If we have not addressed your question, we will reach out directly to answer some. There's a couple other kind of more technical questions that came in. So I'd like to thank you for your time today. I know that this has been, we have been offering a $25 Amazon card for attending this webinar. So the process will be that you will be contacted by a solution expert in the next 24, 48 hours, and just to kind of touch base what your thoughts are on the webinar, and also collect that information that we need to get that out to you. And if you have any other questions, please make sure to reach out to us, and as we look for ways that we can maximize productivity during this time. So thanks very much to everyone for participating, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.